We'll now come back to order. Mr. Gassion, you're up. ZB 2014-08, 138, 146 Brighton Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, obviously, council's name is Robert Gassion.
That's obvious, yeah.
This application has been pending for some period of time. The previous testimony was by Mr. Calandra and by the site engineer. We, subsequent to the last hearing, which is many months ago, have made some changes. My clients, the owner of 138 Brighton Ave, obviously were seeking an approval to increase the number of units. But previously, that approval being sought was for an additional 11 units. That has now been reduced to an additional 8 units, all to be built within the existing structure. There are other changes that have been made, some of which were because of the canal, some of which were voluntary changes based on what was heard from statements from objectors, and therefore my client had his engineer and/or architect make changes. So I'd like to recall Mr. Iannelli to the stand with regard to the discussion of those changes.
Well, the question before we start anything is, do we have to start from the beginning since the original application was in error because the Morris Canal property was included in everything?
I don't think that would be necessary.
I would ask the attorney.
But that's...
Well, I'm assuming what Mr. Iannelli is going to do is what he should do is briefly review his testimony from last time, obviously modifying the testimony where needed to reflect the issue with the canal, just so if someone's here for the first time, they can get a sense of what's happening, but for the spaces that are lost.
He'll review all the relevant testimony and go over the changes.
All right.
Mr. Iannelli, you recall that you've been sworn with regard to this case?
Point of order.
Well, let's get to it, because I want to get this case done. Yes, come on.
Okay, thank you.
Name and address, please.
Mary Higgins, 148 Brighton Avenue, Higgins. We're looking at the agenda. It says that it's continued, but next to it, it says new plans.
Yes.
So is this an amended application or a new one?
No, it's amended.
It's amended. Okay, therefore, if it's amended, didn't the public have a right to view a copy of the amended plans? Because I know of 2 people that went to the office yesterday and they said they were unavailable to the public. They were supposed to have been made available 10 days before
10
this
days
hearing.
before, yes. We had the plans. The plans were sent to us, and they were pointed to the office on the 20th of March. They're actually stamped the 20th of March.
Well, I'm under oath that I went there yesterday, and another person went there yesterday.
I also
and was
understand
told
you went there a couple of weeks
They were unavailable
ago.
to the public. They were unavailable.
Mr. Where is it?
Right here, John.
What's the story on this, please?
Chair, I believe everything's in the file, I'm not sure, but I can check tomorrow.
I don't know why it wasn't available, man, because they've been there. And I understand you went a couple of weeks ago, you had a problem, I was told.
I didn't have the problem. The office had the problem in not making them available.
And how long ago was this?
That was 2 weeks ago, 10 days before. And if you recall from the first hearing of this, we had the problem back in October where they were not made available to
Well, I
us.
was told, and you tell me, maybe there was a misunderstanding. I was told that you were asking for a copy of the application. The application never changed. The plans changed.
So the plans are unavailable for public viewing, is that
No,
correct?
the plans are available.
Well, then why weren't they made available?
I have no idea. You would have to ask the construction code official. I can't answer that question. He says they're there.
So this proceeding is improper because the public did not have access to any visible copies of changes. And we were denied our rights. Does anybody else want to speak up on this?
Well, let the attorney talk first, then if anybody else.
The chairman will run the meeting. All I can tell you is that you had a right, anyone else had a right to see the plans. They were, from what I understand, they were here. When you said they weren't available, I don't know whether you mean they wouldn't let you see them or they didn't have them. You're two different, what was your sense of that?
All right, they said they were not in the office. They didn't know where they were. They assumed that they had been all forwarded to the members of the board. They were no longer accessible to the public. They were physically not in the office yesterday.
What about 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, they were there. I was not allowed to have a copy of them. I had to stand there and write some notes down. I
So you reviewed
subsequently
them
filed
then?
an Oprah report for them, which has not been released to me. Conveniently, it's going to be released to me tomorrow. That's why I returned yesterday to even look at the reports to take more notes. And they said they didn't know where they were.
Well, let me ask you something. You said you reviewed them 2 weeks ago?
I looked at them.
You looked,
I was not allowed to have a copy.
the only updated reports are the ones that are in here dated March 30th.
It consisted of a letter from the town engineer addressed to the board and also from Mr. Gacchione.
Letter from National.
Yes, a letter from Mr. Gacchione addressed to the board, the zoning board.
Was that the one where he requested
Anything?
an adjournment?
That was a month ago.
No, it was dated in April.
Mr. Gassion, you sent us a letter that I don't know about?
I would think I submitted documentation to the construction official's office, but I'll take a look and see what my correspondence section reflects that you might be talking about.
Okay, the letter was dated March 30th, 2015, and the letter from the board engineer from the town was dated April 1st, 2015. That's all that I got because I had a
no
copy
April
in my
1st.
hand.
I got March
It was
30th.
addressed to the zoning board.
The March 30th I have are both dated reports from the engineering department, okay? I believe, am I wrong?
I don't even have.
Actually,
I don't even have the reports.
you don't have the reports?
No. Not the March
Then
30th.
how can this continue if nobody has the reports and if the public didn't have access to it? We were denied access. How can this happen where
Wait a minute, hold on.
nobody knows where it is? Then we're on shifting sand here.
Well, one is supposed to be an engineering report, the other one is supposed to be a revised planning report. But I have both the same. It doesn't say exactly what it is. It's a preliminary. It's like, Mr. Hurwitz, can you please stand and be sworn in?
Tom, with regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth? State your name and display your last name for the record.
Thomas J. Hurwitz, HCR.
You're the board planner and engineer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Hurwitz, I have a very simple question. I may have gotten 2 copies of the same thing by error. Did you make a revised engineering report and a separate revised planning report with the new plans?
No, I just made a general review and stated March 30th, 2015.
Okay. All right, so you got it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have an extensive letter, March 20th, submitting documentation.
March